when someone wants to eat some nash between kiddush and between washing the hands for chalas, for Mishnah, there are 3 reasons not to do so. There is a whole controversy about each one of them. In general, the maskuna is that you could do it, but in some details there is a machlekes. So we'll discuss all these details as it is explained in Siman Reish Mem Tes and in other parts of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. Let's start with the first reason is if I eat nash between kiddush and washing the hands for challah, I may not have such an appetite when I eat after that the challah and the whole meal, because I have started with something else. So there is a din that is also explained in Siman Reish Mem Tes, that one is not allowed to eat a Sa'uda Gdoila like we have for a chasana or for a bar mitzvah or for a bris in middle of the day, a Friday, because that big Sa'uda would cause I should not have the appetite so much of eating the Seudat Shabbos. But it says that if it's like a chasana or a bar mitzvah, that I cannot push it off for another day, then this Seudah is also a mitzvah. So the Seudah of the mitzvah, you cannot say you're not allowed to Erev Shabbos because you will miss the appetite of Seudat Shabbos. They are both mitzvahs, and if the mitzvah is something that you could push it off for another day, let's say you want to have a dinner for the yeshiva and you could do it on Saturday, so you shouldn't do it on Friday, because if you eat a whole meal, a big Seudah on Friday, you will miss the appetite for the Seudat Shabbos. But if it is like a chasana that you cannot push it off for another day, you want to do it in this day, then you could. This is in general the din for a Seudah Gdoila. But a regular Seudah, we know each one of us eats a Seudah on Friday. And there is no problem in that. There is only a little problem that if you want to start this Seudah, regular Seudah, washing and eating a regular meal, the last 3 hours of Friday, the last 3 shoyes zmanis before Shkia, then it's better not to start then. Why? For the same reason. If you will eat a Seudah, regular Seudah, in the last 3 hours, then you will miss the appetite for the Shabbos meal. We learn that from Pesach. By Pesach it says in this last 3 hours, Somuch lemincha, you're not allowed to eat, because that will certainly take away the appetite of eating, and the eating of Seder Leil Pesach, we have to eat it with appetite. This is what the Mishnah and the Shulchan Aruch says about Erev Pesach. But the whole year, on Friday before Shabbos, it doesn't say that you're not allowed to. It just says mitzvah not to. It is a good thing not to start the meal then, because then you will have a better appetite for the Seudat Shabbos. So you could eat the meal before Shabbos comes in. But after Shabbos comes in, you're not allowed to eat anything till Kiddush. You're not even allowed to drink after after sunset before Kiddush. But it is still negeya if you want to eat something, not a meal, a nash, after Kiddush, before you wash, then it's better not to. Because if you will eat then the nash, then certainly it will take away some of the appetite of the Seudas Shabbos. So he says that finally you are allowed to. But he is summarizing in Seif Yud, ומכל מקום אין לימחס ביד המקילים, כיוון שמן הדין אין חיוב גומר לאכיל סעודת שבס לתיובן, כמו שנסבר, as we said that only Erev Pesach we're not allowed to eat a meal, but Erev Shabbos we are allowed, because there is no din that you're not allowed to. It is just better, so it's mitzvah. So if someone wants to eat a nash after Kiddush, before he is washing for the Seudah, you shouldn't be moiche on him, because it's not the end of the world. You could do it. This is the first reason why we shall not eat a nash after Kiddush before washing for the Seudah. So you could. But then there is Kuntesachen we will get to, because first we go to the first reason, then we'll go to the second reason, and then we'll go to the third reason. About that there is a Kuntesachen that you have mentioned. So let's go to the second reason. The second reason says that if you have two things that you want to eat, bread and something else, there is a chiyuv to eat the bread first. If you eat something else, you are not, there is a din of gdime to bread, there is a din of gdime to shiva minim for others, there is a din of gdime, you say bere prioritz and bere priodomo before shehakil. So here, since you have the bread, the challah, the lachem mishneh, and you have the nash, you are supposed to be magdim the lachem mishneh. So he says this is also not terrible, and if someone wants to do it, he may do it. Why? There is a din of gdime, so he says it's not so terrible. Din gdime means that you want to eat both. Let's say if you have two things at the table and you want to eat only one of them, there is no din gdime that you are supposed to eat the other one because there is a gdime to the other one. If you eat both, you should start with the one that is gdime. But if you eat only one, there is no din gdime. You could eat even the one that is not gdime. So the same thing is here. Before you wash, you want to eat a nash. You don't want to eat now bread. Although it's not the same. Because here you do want to eat the bread. But you want to eat later. Now you want to eat the nash. So he says even in this case there is no problem, because when you don't want to eat now the gdime, you're not supposed to. You could eat now the one that you want to eat now. As he is finalizing in the end of Sif Yud Aleph, Shebirkas alechem gedemes lechol habroches, so you're supposed to eat bread before the nash. Ma she'enkin she'echel kedem asuda machmas she'en chofetz misander lochlei klal b'tich asuda. You don't want to eat the nash in middle of the Seudah after you washed. You want to eat the nash before. Then you have the appetite to eat the nash. Azai einay tzorich klal leagdim lefonov birkas halechem. So there is two reasons already, and by both reasons he says that you don't have to care about it. If you want to eat the nash, you could eat the nash before you wash for the Seudah. But then comes a third reason not to eat the nash. And this third reason, there is a machlekes, and there is one case that you could, one case there is machlekes, and there is a stira between here and what Alter Rebbe paskent in Hilchas Birkas Hanenin, and there is a maskone of the Kuntrasachen. So let's discuss this third reason. Third reason is that if you are eating the nash before eating the bread, you have to say a brocha on it. And after you finish, you have to say a bir nefoshes on it, or any brocha achreina. You cannot rely on benching. Benching helps only on what you're eating in middle of the Seudah, or what you eat before the Seudah, for the reason of the Seudah. Let's say we say Kiddush, we don't have to say brocha achreina, because the benching goes also al Kiddush, because it's part of the Seudah, because ein Kiddush b'mokim Seudah. And there is other cases that this is effect. But here when you eat the nash, you don't eat the nash as an appetizer, which becomes part of the Seudah. You eat the nash because now you want to eat the nash. So it's not of the Seudah. So then you would say a broche beire priadoma or shakel, and then you would have to say beire nefoshes, and then you could wash. Because the benching is not helping for this. So you added two broches. There is a din that you are not allowed to add a broche if you don't have to. As the Alter Rebbe explains in Siman Reish Tezvov, in Sif Dalet, Osur ligreim brocho she'eino tzricho, כגין כל שני דבורים שיוכל לפתרום בברוכו אחס, אסור לגרוים שיצטרך להחזיר לבורך, כגין שיפסיק בינתיים בשיחו או בדבר אחר, הגרם שיצטרך להחזיר לבורך. I want to say another brocha. So we have a din by tefillin. We say one brocha on shel yad and shel rosh, and we're not allowed to be mafsik between shel yad and shel rosh. But if I answer omen in between, or I want to say something, then I have to say another brocha on the shel rosh. So when you do a hefsek besicho, you're causing yourself to say another bracha. You're not allowed to. Or there is a din that if you eat something, not bread, you eat something, and in the middle of eating, you go out to another part of the house that you didn't think about it before, or you go outside of the house, you go in the front yard, even you thought about it. This walking out is a hefsek, and you come in, you have to say another brocha if you didn't wash. So you went out, you caused yourself to say another bracha. So you're not allowed to, because osur ligrim bracha she'eino tzricho. Even though that I want to add the bracha. Why? Because there is a din that each one is supposed to say 100 brachas a day. It includes the Trishmon Esres and the Birkas HaShachar and the meal and the benching, and altogether it's 100 brochas, like David HaMelech was metaken. Like the Alter Rebbe brings down in Siman Mem Vov, Meir broches shechayev kol odom levorach bechol yom v'yom me'erev ad beiker, כמו שתיקן דוד המלך עליו השלום בשבס חוסרו, because in the 3 tefillahs you have only each tefillah only 7 brochas, not 18, and other changes. So therefore you're missing brochas to be memale. So you could be memale with eating fruit, or if you don't have fruit, you could be memale by listening to Kriyas HaTorah, answering Omen after their brocha. It's also considered. You have the choice, you consider that. So he wants to be mafsik in middle of eating. He's going outside and coming back in, so he's adding a brocha. You're not allowed to, even Shabbos. Like he says in the Siman Reish Tezvov, that even that you want to be memale the kuf brocha shechayev odom levorech b'chol yom, asur ligrom brocha she'eino tzricho kedei la'ashlim lekuf. So therefore, you're not allowed to eat the nash before the Seudah. Start with the Seudah, so you wouldn't have to say the brocha. You're missing for the kuf, for the meir brochas, you'll eat the fruit another time or other ways. So therefore you're not allowed to. Still, he says in Sif Yud Aleph that if you want to eat the nash, there is no problem. The issue to be moisif a brocha is if you do it in order to be moisif a brocha. But if you do it before you want to eat a nash, then there is no problem. It's not called brocha she'eino tzricho. Ma she'eichel kedem as'uda hu machamas she'reitzel la'ashlim meir brochas. Then you're not allowed to. יש בו זה איסור גמור מן הדין שעשו לקרים חייב ברוכה כשאפשר לפטרו בברוכה אחרת, כמי שנסבר בסימן reish tezvov. But if you eat it before because you want to eat a nash, so he says in the beginning of this seif, במה דברים אמורים כשאיכל עשי מייכל קדם הסעודה, מחמס שחופץ ומסענה לאכול the nash, then there is no problem of brocha she'eino tzricha. The whole problem is if you want to eat the nash because you want to eat another brocha for the meir brochas that you're supposed to. So he says you're not allowed to. Only if you want to eat the nash. But if you want to add a brocha, you're not allowed to. And he says, like it says in Siman Reish Tezvov. But in Siman Reish Tezvov, it doesn't say that. Let's see what he says in Siman Reish Tezvov. אסור לגרום ברוכה שאינו צריכה כדי להשלים למאיר ברוכס, במה דבורים אמורים כשיוכל לפטר בייס דבורים בברוכה שהיא מיוחדת לשניהם, אבל אם היא מיוחדת לדבר אחד, אלא שיוכל לפטר בו גם השני בתרס תפילו, תיב יסר להרבס בברוכס. What is the case of this din? We know every time we have a verbringen, so when I'm getting some mashke to say l'chaim, after I drink the mashke, I want to eat something to take off the bitterness of the mashke. It may be a cookie, it may be a pickle, whatever. So when we eat this, we don't have to say Be'er Minimizenes or Be'er Priadom. Why? Because I don't eat it because I want to eat it. I eat it because I want to take off the bitterness of the mashke. So it's toffel to the mashke. When it's toffel to the mashke, you're not supposed to say a bracha on it. As we see in Seder Birkas Hanehenin, Perek Gimel, Halacha Yud Aleph, מי שאיכל לפס למטה כשתייה ששושה כבר, הרי הפס תפילו למשקה ואין צורך לבורך עליה. Even if you take a challah, a little piece of challah to eat, to take off the bitterness of the mashke, I'm not supposed to say a bracha. It's toffel. But we know we don't do that. When somebody gives me a mashke to say l'chaim, and there is a cookie on the table, first I take the cookie, I say Be'er Minimizenes, I give a little bite, and I eat. Then I say Shehakel, I drink the mashke, and after the mashke I eat the leftover of the cookie. Why do I have to say Be'er Minimizenes on a little piece before? Why don't I say like the din is that you say Shehakel and then you don't say Be'er Minimizenes or Meitzeler Menoret? Because it's toffel to the Ikar. The Ikar I wanted to say l'chaim. So he says further in Seder Birkas Hanehenin Perek Gimel, in Halacha Yud Daled, ומידס חסידוס אפילו באיכל למטה כשתייה ששושה כבר, ליט אין תחילו from the cookie, מעט ממנו, כדי לבורך ברוכה המיוחדת לי, כדי להרבס בברוכס, כי לאילם ירבה אותם בברוכס הצריכס, וימעט בברוכס שאין הצריכס, ולציבו למעט אלו כשליוכל לפטר שני דבורים בברוכה אחת המיוחדת להם. Here the Be'er Minimizenes is not miuchedes for the shehakel that they say on the mashke. So it's better to be meisiv broches hatzriches and lamait broches she'en tzriches. Here by the mizenes it's broches she'en tzricho, because I want to say on the mizenes Be'er Minimizenes, not to be nichlal in the shehakel. Since this is the din when I fight bites on the mashke, therefore he says in Siman Reish Tes Vov, במה דבורים אמורים, כשיוכל ליפטר בדבורים בברוכה שהיא מיוחדת לשניהם. אבל אם היא מיוחדת לדבר אחד, אלא שיוכל ליפטר בו גם השני, בתרס תפילו, tev yetzer laharbes bebroches. So therefore, if I want to add a broche, even without being mashlim for kuf broches, in any case, since it's another broche, it's better to say first Be'er Minimizenes, to eat a little bit, and then to eat the mashke and say Be'er Nefashis. So therefore, let's go back now to our din. He wants to eat a nash after Kiddush before washing for the Seudah. Let's say if he would eat the nash in the middle of the Seudah, he wouldn't say a bracha. But would that be the bracha that is chayev? Maybe not. Over there I said Amitzeler min haaretz. And at this nash, I say Shehakel or Be'er Priadom. So here there is no problem. But he says there is a problem. Why is there a problem? I say a broche which is not part of my Meitzeler min haaretz. So in this there is a machlekes between the Shalom and the Magen Avraham. And that's the whole pilpul here in the Shulchan, in Siman Reish Mem Tes, he says l'chatchila like the Magen Avraham. Where do we have the machlekes? So let's see what he says further in Siman Reish Tes Vov. לפיכך, אם הביאו לפרס בתך הסעודה, תב יסר להניחם לאחר ברכס המאזן, כדי שיבורך אחריהם ברכוסם האחרינו המיוחדת להם, ולהיפטרם בברכס המאזן, שאינו מיוחדת להם, ואינו פטרוסם אלא משום שהם נחשבים בכלל הסעודה. Let's say you eat a fruit in middle of the Suda. You have to say Bere Prioitz. But after you eat the fruit, you don't have to say Bere Nefoshes. Because the Birkas HaMazon is Moitzi, the Bere Nefoshes, that you ate in the middle of the Suda. But the Hametzlach Menoret that you said in the beginning is not Moitzi the fruit, because it's not part of the Suda. So, better to eat the fruit after benching. Because if you eat the fruit after benching, you have one more broche. You say not only Bere Prio Eitz, you also say Bere Nefoshes. So therefore the Shalosh says, better leave it for after the meal, after benching. And then you will say Bere Prio Eitz and Bere Nefoshes. And we don't care about, you don't want to add a brocha that you don't have to, because also ligrim brocha shein tzricha. Because here it is tzricha. Because the benching and the meitzi is meitzi, not the brocha that hamyuchedes lay. It's included in the meal. So you could say it later, the brocha hamyuchedes lay, Bere Prio Eitz and Bere Nefoshes, and it's not the issue of also lehisif brocha shein hamyuchedes, brocha shein tzricha. That's what the Shalosh says. But the Magen Avraham says no, you're not allowed to add a brocha, because whatever you eat in the meal, you're potter. And now when you say it later, you're adding a brocha that is shein tzricha. So that's why the Alter Rebbe continues in Siman Reish Tes Vov, v'yesh chelkim. So how is the maskone? So he says, v'yesh la'achmir kisvore Yorisheinu, you should do like the Shalom. If you are missing, you want to add a brocha, leave the fruit till after you're benching, and then you'll say Bere Prio Eitz and Bere Nefoshes. That's even without that you have to be mashlim for Meir brochas. Especially בפרט בשבס ויום טוב כדי להשלים קוף ברוכס, יש להניחם לאחר ברכס המאזן להשלים בהם. So he's asking like the Shalom, not like the Magen Avraham. Why is he asking like the Shalom, not like the Magen Avraham? So by us in Siman Reish Mem Tes, he has a long Kuntrasachin, and he's bringing everything that the Rishonim say about it, starting from Rab Kleinim in the door of Rashi, and then other poskim, and from them it looks like they say like the Shalom, not like the Magen Avraham. So therefore, after the whole Ariches, the Alter Rebbe fears in the Kuntrasachin, a long Kuntrasachin, הוזקקתי לכך לפי שהמיני פשוט לאכול מיני מסיקו מרקחס קדם הסעודו. People do like the Shalom. Saying them, eating it before the Suda or after the Seudah is the same thing. You could be potter by in middle of the Seudah, and you're doing a special bracha if you do it after benching or before washing. So since he says that from all those people looks like the Shalom, therefore Yotzo Dini Shel Shalom Boru לפי דס הראש וטור ושולחן ערוך והחלקים על התספס וכן גם כן דס רבנו קליימנוס והזרוע ודרכי משה כאן מהר"ם גלנטי וספר הזכרינס ובעל כנסת הגדלו שתיקום הילקח. Since in all these Rishonim it looks like the Shalom, therefore הסמך על כל הנראה בבוסו נגד המומגן הגברום like the Shalom אין מסכיחים עשרה. You could rely on the Shalom. So therefore he passes in Simer Rishtes Vov that you could leave the fruit for after benching, especially if it's Shabbos and Yom Tov. So we see here a chiluk adhes between Reish Tes Vov and Reish Mem Tes. Because in Reish Mem Tes he says that if you want to add the broche for the Meir Broches, איסור גומר מן הדין שאוסור לגרם חיוב ברוכה כשאפשר לפטרו בברוכה אחרת, כמי שנסבר בסימן ריש טס ווב. That means that in Siman Reish Mem Tes he's passing like the Magen Avraham. That even by the Seudah, if you want to eat it before the Seudah or after the Seudah, there is an Isur of Brocha She'eino Tzricha. So we don't know exactly which one he wrote later, the one in Siman Reish Tes Vov or the Siman Reish Mem Tes. In Reish Tes Vov, he says you could be making like the Shalom. In Reish Mem Tes, he says you shouldn't make it. It's a Yisur Gomer, like the Magen Avraham says. So in general, we wouldn't know which one was written after. But since we have an Reish Mem Tes Kuntre Sachen, that after he wrote the Pnima Reish Mem Tes, that you're not allowed to, he had a long Kuntre Sachen to prove from all these Rishonim that they hold like the Shalom, and he says that you could do like the Shalom. So we understand from that Reish Tes Vov, that he was passing like the Shalom against the Magen Avraham is later, after he wrote the Kuntre Sachen, and he came to the decision that we are allowed to. Comes out that finally all three reasons that we have mentioned, that you are not supposed to eat the nash after Kiddush before washing for the Seudah, we could still do it. The first thing is that you wouldn't eat the Seudah with the appetite, proper appetite. So he says it's only a mitzvah, and only Erev Pesach the Ikar is, then there is a issue. So if someone does it, don't stop him. Second reason is because it's a kedime of bread. So he says, since now I want to eat the nash and later the bread, it's not a din of kedime. The third reason, because the Magen Avraham says that it is a din of isur, Brocha She'eino Tzricha, so since the Shalom doesn't hold like that, and all the Rishonim looks like that by them, like the Shalom, so we shouldn't worry about it. So finally, even if you want to eat the nash before the eating, not before because you want to eat it now, but want you eat another few brochas because it is la'ashlim lameir brochas. Because if you eat the nash before the Seudah, you have to say Bere Preadomo and then bear nefashos. So you have 2 more brachas. So don't worry about it. We could rely on the Shalom. But there is still a difference. If this nash is a mezenes, or it is only a regular nash that you have to say on it shehakil or bere priadomo or bere proitz. What is the difference? Because when you eat the nash, there is a 4th thing. You're not eating the Seudah right after the Kiddush. There is a din that ein Kiddush ela b'mokem Seudah. If you make Kiddush and after the Kiddush you go out in the front yard and you come back in, your Kiddush didn't help, you have to make Kiddush again. Because you didn't wash, you made the hefsek. The fact that we always go to the kitchen to wash, and so we go to another room, is because we thought when we made the Kiddush that we are going to wash there. So we wanted to wash there, so we don't have a problem with going to a second place. Because the second place, I thought about it. But if you say go out of the house, then there is a problem. Therefore, we have a problem, sukkahs, if we want to go wash somewhere else in the courtyard from the sukkah, and then we go back in, it's going outside, then there is a hefsek. The Kiddush didn't help. So there is ways, if it's near the sukkah, whatever it is, but there is a problem. So if we eat a nash of a shehakil or a dome or eitz, and then we go wash, then it may be a hefsek. It says in Shulchan Aruch Siman Reish Ayin Gimel, tzorich lechel b'mekemei hakiddush lealter ahar hakiddush, b'mokim hakiddush, right away. Im le'yochal ad lachar zman, le'yotzo yedi chivosei, v'tzorich lahzir lekadish, kedim sheyechal. Ve'en chiluk bein zman kotzer lezman aruch. So if you finish Kiddush, then you want to do something else, even you stay in the same room, but you do something else, so it's a hefsek. The Kiddush didn't help. You're not allowed to do something else, because you're supposed to the Mokim Seudah right away. It doesn't say the shiur, but if you do something else, it's a hefsek. So the same thing, if you eat a nash and then you going around or whatever, it may be a hefsek. That's all if the nash is shehakil or adoma or eitz. But if the nash is a gishmak, a piece of cake, then it's no hefsek. Because if you eat after the Kiddush the mezenes, this is enough to be considered as a b'mokim seudah, as the Alter Rebbe is explaining further in Siman Reish Ayin Gimel Siv Zayin, hoiru hageinim, שזה שאומרו חכמים, אין קידוש אלא ב'mokim seudah, אין צורך שיגמר שם כל הסעודו, אלא אפילו אם איכל כזייס, אפילו כזייס מחמשת המינים. קייק שמבורכים עליו ברם מן המזיינס. ששוסו רביעיס יין מלבד הקידוש. You drink another cup of wine. It's already b'mokim seudah. So you don't have to worry for Kiddush b'mokim seudah. After you eat the cake, you could go out in the courtyard and then come back and then wash, and there is no problem of a hefsek, because right after Kiddush you ate the nash, which is mezenes. But if the Kiddush, the nash is shehakil or adomo or eitz, and then you go out of the house, you didn't have a problem by eating the nash as we discussed till now. But you have a problem that you went out of the house and there is a hefsek between Kiddush and the Sa'uda. So then, if you want to eat other nash, you could eat the nash, but right on the same space, and then right go to the washing the hands for the Sa'uda and not be having a big hefsek. It's all clear, understood? So Hatzlacha, and you're learning, and now you're learning Rishmam Ches, Rishmam Tes.
From all of this, it comes out that it's a shtickle b'di'evet that the Alter Rebbe is saying that you're allowed to do. It doesn't say mamish it's a lechatchila. He says a moichem b'yodai, a maznichen oisoi.
But you see, in Reish Tezvov, he doesn't say just that. In Reish Tezvov, he says more than that. That if there is v'yesh chelkim, v'yesh la'achmer kisvor sheina. He doesn't say only not to be meiche and not to be maskech. So it looks that the maskone, it looks like the Reish Tezvov is later, and it looks like this is the maskone, that you could do it. And especially on Shabbos, he says there is certainly no problem.
Is there a pillar between Friday night and Shabbos day?
No. Not to copy this.
How do we know that Pesach Seder is later?
Pesach Seder is harder, that you're not allowed to eat, and there's a whole controversy. What are we not allowed to eat a Sa'uda in the last 3 hours? We're not allowed to eat chometz because it's after chatzos. We're not allowed to eat matzah because Erev Pesach is not allowed to eat matzah. So he says the only halacha is that we're not allowed to eat matzah ashiro, that theoretically you could eat Erev Pesach. But since it lasts 3 hours, you shouldn't eat it. And this is also not negate to us, because we don't eat Pesach matzah ashiro, because it's mei peres, and mei peres with a little water is machmitz, so we don't eat it. So the whole halacha is not so much negea lemaise, but it's a theoretical halacha that in the last 3 hours we're not allowed to eat. By Erev Pesach it's a halacha. By Erev Shabbos it's only a mitzvah, which is not necessarily the halacha. But since still after Kiddush, if we want to eat a nash, then is the halachas that we have discussed today.
How do we know that Pesach Seder was written after Reish Mem Tes?
Because after he wrote Reish Mem Tes, he wrote a long Kuntersachen that he is finalizing, not like he says in the Pnim. He probably didn't have the chance to correct the Pnim, or we don't have his corrections on the Pnim. So since the Kuntersachen, he is proving not only as Charote, he is proving with a long arichas, not like the Maskone in the Pnim of Reish Mem Tes. So we understand that Reish Tezvov, that he is paskening like the Kuntersachen of Reish Mem Tes, is written after, and then he already paskened like the Shalom.
Doesn't that only make it l'chatchila because the brachos? Isn't the l'teavin part still just that we're not ma'itav? I guess
the teavin, if you want to eat it for nash, we already discussed, there is no problem. But if you want to eat it for the bracha, he said in Pnim of Reish Mem Tes that's Isur Gomel. But then he Chazer in the Kuntersachen, proving with a big arichas, a very long Kuntersachen, to prove that the Rishonim hold like the Shalom. So according to that, his maskona in Reish Tezvov, that it is like the Shalom and not like the Mogen Avram.
Could it be the Indian bracha, you want to make the bracha simply for that food, then a piece of Reish Tezvov, you could do that. But when it's not, your intention is not because you want to make the bracha b'chesed, you still want to eat. So then comes out that Reish Tez, Elim place.
That's what you say. But that's what you say. So let me repeat again what it says in Reish Tezvov, after he brings the machlekes, and after he says that you should be machmer like the Shalom. He's finalizing, ובפרט בשבס ויינטיב, כדי להשלים לקוף ברוכס, יש לי להניחום לאחר ברכס המוזין, להשלים הברוך בוהם. So that's the reason that you want to eat it later for the Meir Brochas. And you could do it with no problem according to the Maskona of the Alter Rebbe.
But that doesn't get into the problem of Te'ovim. It only deals with the problem of
Te'ovim, we decided that there is no problem. Even in Reish Mem Tes, he says there is three reasons, but there is no problem. Because when you eat it because you like it, there is no problem of Shemo, you'll miss the appetite, and there is no problem of Kdime, and there is no problem of Larbet Bebrochas. The only problem is if you don't eat it for Te'ovim. If you eat it in order to add the Meir Brochas. So even in that, the Maskona is there is no problem.
What pshat in the end of Siman Reish Tesvav, after Rebbe brings the machlekes between the Shalah and the Mogen Avram, is yesh chelkim, yesh lahachmir kisvar rishonim.
Kisvar rishonim is the Maril, that he says that even if you don't know what to do, better bench and then eat the fruit. Like it's negeh by the chasanas, they give fruit after you finish the whole meal. So you could eat it right away. So then you would say, there was a whole people I don't want to go into it. Could be then you have to eat, say, a bere prioetz and also bere nefoshes before you bench on what you eat after they took away the tables and they left only nash by the dancing. But in any case, when you want to eat after, you could eat, it's better to eat after and not before benching. They give sometimes cream, ice cream in the end of the meal. So if you want, you better leave it for after benching, you eat it then. That's lahachmir kedas hashalom.